Eddie, firstly, how is Sean Longstaff?
Sean is okay, yeah, he's improved. He hasn't trained yet, so we're hoping either today or tomorrow he will, but we'll wait and see.
And what about Alan Saint-Maximin, who you've been without now for quite a few weeks?
Yeah, Alan has trained, so he trained yesterday. Great to see him back on the grass, trained very well too, so really pleased with that.
How much will you have benefited from having a free week this midweek and not 3 matches like you did last week?
Well, I hope so. I hope it benefits us. I think been good to train again and be back on the grass with the players. Mood's been good, training quality's been very high. So I've been pleased with what the players are given this week.
Before I come on to Arsenal, I just wanted to ask you about a player that you probably haven't spoken too much about this season, Paul Dummett, who was ready to come on right at the end against Southampton, didn't quite make it, you ran out of time. He's only played once this season, he's had a difficult few years because of injuries. Just wonder what sort of physical condition he's in. Is he ready to give you 90 minutes if you need him to?
Yeah, Paul's been really good actually. I think fitness-wise, it's the best I've seen him. He's had a really consistent run of training, hasn't missed a day in a while. And I think any player benefits from that consistency. So he's a very, very good player, Paul. And I think the beauty of him is he can play now a couple of positions for us. So left back, centre half. It's great to have a player who's got that experience and that ability. Yes, he hasn't had opportunity yet really to get a run in the team because of the consistency of the other players. But someone we value very highly as a player, person, professional. And I was gutted I couldn't get him on the pitch. Time ran out, but it was just a sort of a little show for me that he's very valued here.
Given his value to you then, his contract is coming to an end, is there a possibility that despite his lack of time on the pitch this season that he could stay?
Yeah, very much so. I see Paul as part of our future. I think when you build a squad, you're never going to be able to play everybody within that squad for the amount of time that maybe they want to. So you need players that are prepared to fight for their place, train really well and have a really good effect on the group. Matt Ritchie, Paul Dummett, they're players that, although they haven't necessarily performed for the outside world, they've performed for us internally. They've been excellent, both of them.
Looking at the Premier League table, Brighton got what could be a big win over Manchester United on Thursday night. Liverpool are in good form, so despite your strong position, would your message be that it's not done yet, it's not over in terms of top four?
Nothing's done, and I didn't expect it to be done. We're competing against elite teams who will fight to the end, and we have to do the same. So our 5 games we need to give our best preparation, focus to, because the fight that we're in could go right down to the end of the season.
When you played Arsenal earlier in the season, you picked up what was a pretty useful point. It was a match that was certainly competitive and maybe at times a bit bad-tempered. How were things left between you and the Arsenal coaching staff? Because I think at one point you did, unusually for you, go and say your piece.
No, fine. I've got a lot of respect for Mikel. I think he's done an incredible job when you consider the team that he picked up and the position they were in to the team that he has now and the way that they're playing. And that's a brilliant coaching job. You have to admire everything that he's done. So whether that's recruitment, coaching, everything. So no, a lot of respect from me to him. Within a game, you'll always have moments where you come up against opponents and there's a bit of confrontation. That I think that's natural. That's part of the job. But there's certainly no issues my side.
Thank you. Keith?
Eddie, you mentioned Maxi there. Is he likely to be in the mix for Sunday?
Well, yeah, we'll wait and see, Keith. I think one training session in, I can't remember how long he's been out, but so we'll make a decision whether we involve him.
And any other injuries on top of the 2 and Jamal?
Just trying to think how the squad looks. Yeah, a couple of little niggles this week. Hopefully nothing major that will affect the team.
In terms of the transfer window, which of course is looming large, you've been linked with a whole host of players already. Does that just give us a little insight into perhaps how busy this summer will be, and do you think that this transfer window could be your busiest as manager since you arrived, because what you've got perhaps coming up next year with European football?
I'm not sure who we've been linked with, and I don't expect you to tell me. So I don't know. They're difficult questions to ask. I think the transfer window is secondary at the moment. It's in the distance. At the moment, we're fighting for points in games and training and everything that consumes you so much. So on the transfer side, that's for you to speculate. But until we know where we stand in terms of next year, it's difficult to predict.
And is it quite easy to sort of park that for now with everything that you've got on the line in terms of the football?
I think you have to, because otherwise you'll be looking at things when you should be focusing on the games. So the games will dictate what happens next year. The transfer business is obviously hugely important. I don't underestimate it, and there's work going into it. But you just have to get your priorities right at this stage of the season.
And you've obviously taken charge of a couple of brilliant wins at St James's Park of late against Manchester United and then against Spurs as well. This is a feeling of another game like that. How enjoyable is it? How much of a challenge is it for you as a manager going into a game like this?
Yeah, I think they're big challenges. So, your preparation to the game is key. So the training you deliver, your tactical plan, you've got to try and get it right. And obviously you then ask the players to execute that to the best of their ability. So there's a lot of decisions to be made. Certainly they're great games, the games we've had recently, the ones you mentioned, because we had positive results and positive performances. So that's what we're looking for again.
And you see St James's Park at its best on days like this, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I think my mind flicks to those games, and it's always about the crowd and the emotion and the noise and the feeling that they've created for us. So it's same again, please. It's can we create that intimidating environment for our opponent, and also can we elevate our own players?
Hi Eddie, 250 games as manager now. Have you ever witnessed many clubs, many cities, I suppose, as united as this one feels in pretty much every aspect right now?
No, I think we're in a really good moment. I can't think of another time. I think the passion is there in the city. I think you can feel it. I hear stories of it. I certainly think internally we're united. We're together in our fight for success, and the players are ready, I think, for hopefully an exciting end to the season.
We talked about this post-match on Sunday, about this team-first mentality, about Anthony's reaction when he came off, Callum's reaction to being on the bench. There's so many reasons behind Newcastle's success this season, but is that team-first mentality right up there at the top, would you say?
I think in all successful teams, yeah. I think it's there. I don't think you can have to be successful long-term players thinking of themselves ahead of the team. I think the team has to take priority, the club has to take priority. But in saying that, I always want the individuals within the team to succeed and do well and fulfil their dreams. And I think at the moment, if the team does do well, then a lot of players will get to that point. So I think when you see the other side of it, when you see teams struggling and in difficult moments, usually do have that selfish element within there. So it's about trying to continue on the path that we're on, where everyone is in the same direction, fighting for the same cause.
It's great to see Lewis Marley sign professional contracts in the middle of a week. Obviously, a lot of talk about transfers and money in this day and age, but how important is the academy to Newcastle? How important is it to have Geordies in this Newcastle United team for you?
Yeah, I've said it many times. I believe in that so much. I think it's hugely important. Now, I'm in a difficult position because I can only promote players through the academy that I feel are good enough to play in the Premier League, and there's such a difficult thing to do, such a difficult journey to go on to get from the academy through to the first team at any football club, but especially in the Premier League. Now, Louis got an amazing chance to do that at his age. He's got all the attributes he needs. Now he needs a little bit of luck, and he needs to continue on the path that he's on with the great work that he's already done. But I'd love there to be a few more. It will save us a fortune in the transfer market if we can produce more on a consistent basis.
I won't ask you specifically about this Champions League race, but just generically, how well suited are a big club like Newcastle United to a big competition like the Champions League?
It's a good way of asking it. I think Newcastle's shown previously in their history that they would be a brilliant part of that competition, but it's up to us to try and get there.
And just on Arsenal, obviously it was a huge occasion, I suppose, last year. Not just the result, it had everything that night in May, didn't it? How much are you hoping for a repeat of that, not just performance and result-wise? And how different a team are Arsenal to that night at St James's?
Yeah, I think it's a different game. I think we've come a long way in that period of time. I think Arsenal have come a long way in that period of time. So I think you'll see two teams that have improved since that point. Totally different game, totally different circumstances. So I'm not really looking back at that game too much. That's in the past. We need to look to the future.
Just finally away from the pitch, Joe Linton I saw this week auctioning off Hawaiian shirts with his face on it for charity, which is a great gesture. I just wonder what you made of that and how soon we are to seeing Eddie Howe's face all over a Hawaiian shirt.
I'm not sure it'd have the same effect as Joe Linton's, to be honest. He's got a lovely face, isn't he? I need to check that out. I haven't seen it, so it sounds really good. I might buy one myself.
Top man, thanks.
No worries.
Andrew?
Eddie, good morning to you. Eddie, by the time you play Arsenal on Sunday, Liverpool will be could be just 3 points behind you. Do you lose any sleep over Liverpool's form and the fact that they might, challenge you for the Champions League places?
Do I lose any sleep? No, I don't lose any sleep over it. But I'm aware that Liverpool are a top team, and does it surprise me they're able to go on a run of wins? No. But you look, there's other teams there as well. But we're not focusing on that. We haven't done that all season. We haven't focused on where we are, who's around us, form of teams. We've just focused on ourselves, and that's all we can do. We have a tough run of fixtures, but I think at the same time a great run of fixtures, because every game's important. They're great occasions, and we look to carry on our good form.
Dan Burn has been quoted midweek as saying Newcastle are the fittest team in the Premier League. Do you agree?
I think you have to prove that every week. I'd say we have done. So I think Dan's right in the sense that week after week, I think we've gone to the end. I think sometimes in games I look at us, I think we've got stronger as the game's gone on. I believe in our physical capabilities. I believe in how we work. But it's never a final thing. You can never say we are the fittest team. We have to prove it, as I say, and it can change. So I'd say at the moment we're in a very good place physically.
Southampton scored last weekend. That means just one clean sheet in the last 14 games. So what's going on? Because the defence isn't as secure as it once was.
Yeah, it's been a strange run, I think, defensively, because we've had an unwelcome habit of conceding a goal when we've looked reasonably solid. Southampton would be the same. They had minimal chances in the game. They scored one goal. That's disappointing from our viewpoint. But as we currently stand, we still have the best defensive record in the league. So they've been momentarily lapses. I don't think they've been structural problems within our setup. We hope to fix those and get back to clean sheets.
Callum Wilson, 8 goals in the month of April, phenomenal. Obviously there is this debate about whether you play him alongside Isaac or whether you keep him on the bench. Is there a school of thought in your mind that actually by limiting his game time, Wilson's game time, you've actually improved him as a striker and increased his goal rate?
I'm not sure he'd agree with you on that. No, I think there's a train of thought from my side that, especially in 3-game weeks, if we can manage both players' load, we give both a higher chance of staying fit through a tough campaign. We only have 2 recognised strikers, so they're both hugely valuable to us. I think what's happened, in my opinion, is that both players have respected the healthy competition there is between each other, and I think when one's had an opportunity, they know they've got to play well, and then vice versa the other way. And I think that's contributed greatly to the team. I think they've both been hugely impressive. And who knows what happens in the future? I've never made any certain remarks about what I will and won't do in the future. So it's all open, depending on really the players' performances.
A draw is really no use to Arsenal, so it should be a fantastic game, shouldn't it, on Sunday? Yeah,
it should be. I think it will be. Whatever happens in the game, whether it's a tactical game and both teams stifle each other, or whether it's really open end to end, I think it will be a great spectacle between two really good teams, in my opinion.
Simon at the back.
Morning, Eddie. You mentioned the team spirit. How much is that down to you and the club and the coaching staff giving it a push, and how much do you actually just trust the character of the individuals you've got in your dressing room to make that happen?
I think a little bit of both. I think you need good characters to create a good harmony within a long season. If you don't have that, no matter what I do as a coach and we do as a coaching team, you'll never get the result that you want. So then you need to recruit wisely. You need to have good characters already within the group. And when I came through the door here, I felt instantly, I was like very impressed with the psychological aspect of the group. I thought we were some great professionals in there. We just needed to try and create then a working environment and a really strong culture that could hopefully build on the team spirit. And I think, yeah, it's been second to none this season. It's been in part what's carried us through to where we are now.
Arsenal are having an outstanding season, however it ends, so are Manchester City above them. You're the team just behind them in the table. How big do you see the step between where you are and where they are?
I think there's the gap. The league table tells you that. I wouldn't necessarily try and break it down in terms of where I see that being, but the points gap would tell you that we've still got some work to do. But we're aware of that. You know, we're very pleased with how we've performed this season to get to where we are now, and our focus really now is only on the last 5 games.
Thanks, Simon. Damien?
Eddie, was the game here last season the first real indication of where this club might be able to go?
In terms of overall performance, I thought it was our best performance to that point. I thought we were really strong in our off-the-ball performance and very good as also on the ball, and I thought we were creative and against a very good team. So to that point, it was our best performance. I think since then we've eclipsed that this season in terms of how we've played in certain games. But probably looking at this game knowing we're going to have to replicate our best performance to win again.
Keith asked about the transfer window earlier and didn't mention names. I'll throw a couple at you.
Okay.
Big link this week with Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar Jr. Are you going to have to learn to put up with that sort of thing over the next few months?
Yeah, I think that kind of speculation's been there from day one since the takeover, really. I think naturally everyone's then assumed the biggest names in world football will be going to Newcastle, and now we've not recruited that way. I think financially we can't recruit that way at the moment, but also we have to bring the right people and the right players into the group. So I always say the transfer market is such a complex decision that there's a lot of you can't just pick a name and bring them in. There's got to be a lot of thought going into what we're doing, both financially and looking at the players.
Luke?
You're aware of War Flags, aren't you, and the work they do?
Yes.
How important has that been in its own way in generating that atmosphere at St James's Park?
Yeah, I think they've been incredible. We've invited them in. We enjoyed a morning with them and really enjoyed spending time and getting to know their stories a bit better and why they do what they do. I think they've had huge impacts. I always say, well, the first thing I do when I step out at St James's Park is look to my right, look around the stadium and see what there is to enjoy, and usually it's inspiring. Not inspiring just for me, but for the players, and they're the most important people. So when they're paid tribute to in a certain way, I can only think that gives them a huge lift going into that game.
And you were an opposition manager here once. I think I might have asked this before, but you were an opposition manager here before. It can be a really daunting place for players to step into, particularly when the atmosphere is like it is at the moment.
Yeah, it can be. It's a strange one because my visits here I really enjoyed. Now, that's not necessarily linked to the result, although we did win a couple of games, which is always increases the enjoyable experience even more. But even the disappointing results we had at St James's Park, you realise it's an incredible arena to play football in. It's a magical place, and that's when the atmosphere wasn't maybe as good as it is now. So that goes to show, all the players say the same thing. They love playing here, and they love playing in front of the home supporters.
Just a bit of a tangent. Saint-Maximin was probably playing some of his best football for you just before the injury. How important is he going to be moving forward with the team? Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I think it's such a shame that the 2 moments probably where you felt Maxi was just entering his best form, he ended up getting injured just after that. So I look back to the Wolves game when he scored that spectacular goal, and then we lost him for a period of time. And then, I think it was the Nottingham Forest game. I can't remember his last game now, but around West Ham. You felt Maxi was really contributing assists and impacting the game, and then we lose him again. So that rhythm's been disrupted, but he's trained really well yesterday, so I was really pleased with that. His first training session back, and he looks in good physical condition, and he's got a huge part to play.
Thank you. Craig?
who are we sort of question you what you've done with Callum and Isaac? The proof is there. 8 wins out of 9. They're both scoring goals. Is there a temptation this weekend, given it 7 days since the last game, 6 days until the next, to put them in together? Given the impact they had in the second half, it's a big game on the television against Arsenal. Is that temptation there for the first time to pair them?
It's not the first time the temptation's been there to play them together. I think when you're analysing the next game, you have to analyse the opponents, analyse yourselves, and pick the best team to try and win the game. So that won't be any different this weekend. So I've thought about lots of different scenarios, but ultimately my end decision has to be, what does the team need, not what does Alex need or Callum need.
Could the team need Alex and Callum?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But it's that's always been the case.
Yeah.
But it's up to me to make the right call.
Yeah. Sam Allardyce said this week in his open press conference, he's as good as Pep, he's as good as Klopp. You're the only British manager, permanent British manager in the top 10 currently, actually, competing with those guys. Do you have that belief that you're as good as them? Do you have to have that?
I don't spend any energy comparing myself to them. I think that would be ridiculous. We've had different paths, different journeys to get to the same league. I am myself. They are themselves. I just try and be the best me I can be and work on myself constantly to try and improve.
Thank you,
Jordan? I think if my maths is right, I think you're guaranteed a top 7 finish already this season. I mean, just how does that make you feel?
Well, it better be right if you're going to make a statement like that.
I just came out with the top.
How does that make me feel?
Yeah.
Well, if that's right, I'm trusting your maths here. Then that's a great thing to hear. But it doesn't stop, does it? There's other games. There's more challenges ahead for us. So we can't ever think for 1 second that we've done okay. 5 more games to get as many points as we can.
So say if you were to drop the 7, would you be happy with that, or now because you're in this position, you want more?
No, from this position, I could never say I'd be happy with that, because that means we've lost 5 games. I can't say I'd ever be content with that. My summer would be ruined. Looking back at what had just happened, so it's very much about me looking to the future, but making sure we maximise the opportunities we have ahead of us.
Cheers. I think I'll go and double check me maths.
Go and double check.
Miles?
This morning you mentioned Saint-Maximin's back in training. How's Emil Krafth, and how's he in terms of his comeback, and how's he been doing it himself?
Emil's been working incredibly hard, and he's very diligent, very professional. I think naturally when you have the type of injury that he's had a couple of little, I won't say setbacks, but little moments that have just meant he's had to hold back for a week or two. I think at the moment he's got a little bit of nerve trouble in his back, so but nothing's changed his timescale. We're always looking to next season really for Emil, and we hope he can join in pre-season from day one. But he's still got a bit of a way to go to make sure he's in the best physical condition.
Garang Call's not been playing in recent weeks. Is this part of his development, part of his learning, or were you hoping for more football during this loan?
I think whenever you loan a player, you hope they play every game. For a striker, they score loads of goals, they return in brilliant mental place. But part of going on loan is that you don't know what's going to happen to the player, and they have to earn everything that they get. Now, sometimes through a disappointing loan, you can actually respond and learn things about yourself, which makes the loan really beneficial. So I would never look at it as a huge negative. But of course, the loan probably hasn't gone as we would have hoped it was going to go.
Okay, Lee?
Eddie, some of us here went over to Saudi Arabia, and we've seen that there's a clear business strategy at the club, which some of the names mentioned before, some of the marquee names would almost suggest that doesn't look like it's going to happen in the next window, at least, bringing in a big name like that.
But I think, as I said earlier, I think it comes down to financials. I don't think we're in a position where we can, with financial fair play, as I said, impacting what we're able to do. It's impacted what we're able to do in every window so far. So certainly from a financial perspective, I think that rules that out at this moment in time.
And for you, it doesn't feel like a football club where you would get a player sort of pushed onto you. You have a strong say in, you should do, you're the manager, but you can have a strong say in who you get at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think in order for a football club to be truly successful over a long period of time, I think as the head coach, you need to have a very, very strong hand on transfers, because ultimately the players have to come into your style of play. They have to come into your way of working. They have to fit your philosophy, and I think only someone in my position can truly understand what that is. Now, you need a very good recruitment team. You need the right players presented to you, but then I think you've got to pick wisely, and me and my coaching team spend a lot of time trying to identify the right players.
And just on the points tally, you could still get possibly even as good as the Kevin Keegan team in '96. Is that a little bit of extra motivation if you did need it? You could be right up there as the record points holder.
Yeah, I wasn't really aware of that, so I wouldn't say it's been a big motivation for me, but I think when you hear little things like that, that might be extra motivation for the players. I think for me, I just purely look game by game and just try and win the game, and then, as I said many times, it probably bores you then see where we end up at the end of the season.
Kieran?
You've gone toe to toe with teams like Arsenal. Do you feel part of the elite now? Do you think the Big Six is a thing of the past?
I don't know if I could ever answer that truly, because I always think it's there for us to prove, so that people will label teams and trying to bracket them and put them in certain groups, but for me it doesn't mean anything. Every season you have to fight for where you end up, and if we can be consistently in the top positions in the league, then maybe you guys might bracket us as something, but I'm not going to do that at this moment in time.
The higher up you go, the quality of player, obviously those kind of targets have a bit of ego. Is that a challenge this summer potentially?
I think that's a challenge all the time. Like, all of the players in our squad currently will have egos. I will have an ego. Lee sat next to me, he's got an ego.
We know that.
But it's how that ego manifests itself, it's how it presents itself. So I think part of my job is to manage people, characters, and to try and get them to think with a team understanding, while also recognising what the player needs and wants. So I don't think that challenge is any different. I get your question, but I think it already exists.
Jacob?
Eddie, you had a really high score in April. 22 goals is the fourth most of any team in a single month in Premier League history. But a couple of months back, only 3 goals in 8 games. What did you learn from those lean times to apply to the last month?
Don't panic. We statistically were really high in terms of expected goals. We weren't delivering them. I think I had countless questions in media interviews about why and what you're going to change. And sometimes if you know you're performing well in that, not in terms of goal scoring, but goal creation or potential goal creation, then I think you just have to be patient and stick to your beliefs and hope that it will come good. Now, if we weren't producing those figures, then maybe we would have to look to change some of our ideas, but we believe in how we work. So I'd only drastically change something if I felt it was in desperate need of change, which this season I think the team's functioned really well.
Both Callum and Alex in really good form, but very different kinds of players, kind of in training together. What are they improving about each other, teaching each other?
No, I don't think there's teaching each other as such. I think they've been looking at each other, and I think there's a natural respect, as I say. I think there's a healthy focus on, in training where they're competitive. They want to. If we're doing a finishing drill, they both want to win. If whatever the exercise is, they both want to win. But that's not just exclusive to them. That's right through the squad. You'll have wide players that want to be the best in their position. So that's really healthy, and that's what we want. As we progress as a team, we want that competition that we have in that area in all positions.
Simon?
Hi. Putting my massive ego aside, just to ask another one about Ronaldo and Neymar. What do you feel when you hear about the club being linked with 2 massive names like that? Does it frustrate you, because it's clearly not the direction the club's going to go in at the moment? But it also shows where the club is in terms of being elevated into that kind of bracket of super club.
That doesn't frustrate me. Those 2 players you mentioned are unbelievable players. incredible players. So I don't waste any time over speculation. You know, when we're linked with different names, it's obviously I know what direction I want to take the team in and what we can and can't do in the transfer market. So a lot of the names will not be accurate, but I understand you've got a job to do.
Yeah, it gets a lot of web hits. I think that's why we asked about it.
Exactly.
Just to follow, do you think Newcastle will ever be in a position to actually pick off players like that, or do you think the challenge is in actually discovering them before they're huge?
I think currently probably the latter, discovering them before they explode onto the world scene, because as I said, we wouldn't be able to come close to affording those players as they are the best players in the world, or some of the best players in the world. We're never going to be in a position currently to afford their transfer fees, wages, whatever. So we need to go underneath and find them young and then develop them into the players that they can be.
Thank you. Humble thank you, Simon. Martin?
In the bigger picture, Eddie, is the aim to catch and then overtake Arsenal?
In the long term, did you say? Yeah. The aim is to try and catch and overtake everybody. It's easier said than done, but I think we have to have that mindset that wherever or whatever we achieve, we're not happy and content with that. We want more. It's the only way for the players to think. Otherwise, as soon as you reach what you feel your summit is, the only way is down.
And you spoke before about the players visualising the campaign last summer. Did you let it come into your mind that you may be challenging for the Champions League?
No, I didn't think that way. My work in the summer was, it was an incredibly busy summer to try and get the best players we could to the squad. I felt we did that within our capabilities. And then it was about pre-season was an amazing thing. I think we had a brilliant pre-season. We really enjoyed it. Looking back, that is, and that's probably laid the foundation for our success this year.
And looking forward to the game, what are your thoughts on Mikel Arteta, who was a more excitable pitch side presence than yourself?
Do you think? I think what you're asking me to comment on.
Just your thoughts on him.
On him, I think he's an outstanding coach, an outstanding manager. I think the job that he's done, I enjoy watching Arsenal play. I admire his work. You can see his work come through in the performances. I think he's elite, yeah.
Scott, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just on Arsenal. I mean, how much can a club like Newcastle, who clearly want to keep improving, take from the fact that Arsenal have made that leap into genuine title contenders this season, and they've kind of done it by, they've made signings obviously, the lads from Man City, but they probably haven't done the Chelsea £600 million route. They've improved a lot of players that were there, but have shown that actually you can make that leap to challenge a Man City. They're not untouchable.
Yeah, they've done it in a very clever way, I think. So they invested in a lot of young players. They went youthful, and then last summer sprinkled some experience in there, with the experience of winning the league themselves. So I thought they're really clever signings, and I think that elevated them to another level. And now I think they're reaping the rewards of that clever recruitment. Recruitment is key, along with Mikel's coaching, as I say, because for me that's elevated them. You can see it in their style of play and how they work. So a combination of all those things, I think, has led to their success this year.
And I mean, they've obviously come from a higher base than where Newcastle were, but are there parallels of the journey that the two clubs are going on?
I'm not sure. I don't really focus on that. I think, as you say, we've come from a different place.
Yeah.
And I think we've surpassed our expectations to this point from where we were last year. I mean, last year was a scrap and a battle to stay in the league, and we didn't necessarily expect then to elevate ourselves to where we are now. So I want the players to almost feel that as well, that freedom. I don't want them to feel burdened by any pressure as we go into these final 5 games. Let's carry on playing as we have been. Let's not change too much.